Hi, I'm Becky Meagher, and welcome to Transitions, Body, Mind, Spirit. Transitions. We go through so many different transitions in our life, and I like to use the metaphor of triathlon, something that I'll be doing actually this Sunday in Ashen City. In a triathlon, the first thing you do is you swim. And then the next thing you do, you get on your bicycle after you've been in that transition area. And after that, then you run. And that is a metaphor for what we do in life. Things change and become one thing we thought we were going to do and whatever. So we have an amazing guest, and this is part 2 of the 2 parts of a show on Jan Campbell. And Jan Campbell is a yoga teacher, a pioneer in Nashville, Tennessee, teaching yoga before it was in so many different areas. And she's going to demonstrate what all of us can do. You don't have to be a teenager. She understands your body as it changes, and this is going to be a great learning experience. So Jan Campbell, thank you for being here. Let's go.
So, but to begin with, I'd like to show a pose that we begin most of our classes with, and it's called mountain pose. And it is simply standing in really good posture. And this posture involves the spine and the way the spine moves. So the spine has 4 curves. There's a cervical curve right at your neck. Then a little bit lower in the upper back, there's the cervical curve that's comprises the area around the lungs. And then as you go to your waistline and a little below, there's the lumbar curve, and then below that is the sacral curve. So we want to preserve those natural curves in our spines on a daily basis and balance that so that health is there for us. And in Tadasana, we want to also preserve as much of Tadasana in our yoga poses as possible. So I'm going to show how that can be and what that looks like in the classic pose. So I'll begin this way and stepping back. This is a pose called downward facing dog. So you've probably seen your dog do this. If you have a dog, when they stretch up, and that feels so good. And then they stretch their back legs. And then from there, there's another pose you can come into called upward facing dog, which stretches the front of the body, like downward dog stretches the back body. And then I'll walk forward, come back to mountain pose. Well, that is all well and good for a healthy body, and it's wonderful, it feels good, but not all of us are physically perfect in every way. None of us is, but some, as we age, things happen. So, for instance, if I have arthritis in my wrist and hands, this much flexion, which it requires in downward dog, is not available to me, or should, and it's painful. If I have glaucoma, my ophthalmologist has told me that I can't get my head that much lower than my heart, or if I have high blood pressure, that's an issue. So we're going to show you some ways that can be used for the same poses, the same benefits, but without the challenges. So I'm going to get a chair here. This chair came from Walmart years ago, and it had a back in it, but for yoga it has two screws here, and I could take the little back off, and it was perfect. So I had my yoga chair. So for downward dog, oh, and the other thing that I forgot to mention that restricts a lot of people is tight hamstrings. How many of you have tight hamstrings? A lot of us have really, really tight muscles in the back of our legs. And when the hamstrings are tight, it pulls on your back. So when you're doing downward dog, for instance, and you're trying to do it like the teacher wants you to, but your legs are like this, and you all the weight is on your upper body, and the back tends to round like this, which is an overstretch of the back, and the hamstrings are saying, I'm not going anywhere. You just have to do this without me because I'm too stiff. So, how are we going to help a person who's got any or all of those problems? The chair. So first I'll begin by catching the chair on the sides. That does away with the flexion of the wrist. So that feels pretty good. And then as I walk my feet back, I don't have to stretch those hamstrings as much. So I just press into the chair, lengthen my upper body, and now I can actually get my hands, this needs to be on the sticky mat, can get my heels on the floor. From here, I look up and I can come into upward facing dog from here. That feels pretty good. And I can go back and forth and get a little bit of warm up for the practice that is to follow. So, the chair is one of my favorite pieces of yoga equipment ever. Now I'm going to show some other poses, and I have a student with me who has graciously agreed to do the poses, both the classical way, and then we'll show you how the chair can be used to modify those poses. So the first pose she's going to do is triangle pose. So she'll use blocks, and those are also ways to modify. So let's start with your bricks like this, and start with your left foot to the wall. So the wall is also an assist here. So I'm going to ask her to hook her outer heel to the wall. And this is a lateral pose, so it stretches the side body. Now turn the right foot out. One of the difficulties in this pose for people is tightness in the hips. So as she comes into the pose, she has to take this right buttock down and underneath her so that she is in alignment with the whole side of her body lined up with her right leg. And she's a seasoned student, so she can do that. This shoulder has to pin into place, and then finally this arm extends straight up as this arm extends down. Now, she doesn't have a problem with this, but the problem that we see in so many people is this sticks way out like this, and this comes forward, and then she can't even get her arm up, so really she's better off with her hand here. Yes. Now come back up. And up you come. So that's the classic pose. But if your hips are really tight and you look like she did on that second pose, that's not good. So the chair is a benefit in that pose. So kind of first take your hand into the chair seat. I'm going to let you place the chair.
Or the same side?
So you're going to be doing the same side. That's okay. I think this is not going to be a problem. If you want to use the wall, you can or not. That's up to you. So for a student that is less flexible, hand on the chair seat like this makes this alignment much easier to come by. Can you see now she's aligned? Now, if she's a little more flexible, she can walk her hand over to the left of the chair seat, place her elbow in the chair, and with her hand she can pull herself around so that this buttock moves this way and she again is in alignment. Okay, and now bring yourself back up and turn the feet. And the chair is a great way to feel balanced in the pose. So if you feel a little off balance in your poses, the chair is such a stabilizer that it removes the fear component. Now, we're going to show two more poses, one right after another. The first is called the second warrior pose, warrior 2. And that will be followed by a side angle pose. And I will place a break for her. Is that high enough for Partial Konasana?
I think so.
Okay. Okay. Now, not that one. Vera 2 first, remember. Okay. Yeah. So this is the first pose. Now, two difficulties here. Same thing, if there's tightness in the hips, this is hard to keep this knee externally rotating, which is the safe way to do the pose. You shouldn't have the knee doing this and the buttock doing that. And then the other thing is, can you see that she's leaning out over, extend your arm now, over this right leg so that lean out a little more. Okay. Now take the hand to the wall. So this should be perpendicular. And Connie can do it, but do it now, do it wrong. And let that knee roll in just a little bit. Yes. Those are things we want to avoid, and it's really hard if you're really tight to do. And then from here, she's going to come in, take the hand down to the brick, and this is the lateral ankle pose. And come back up. All right. So, how do we use the chair for that? Well, it's a really nice way to do it. We'll turn the chair this way. Now, if you want to, you can step your... No, you're going to sit in the chair, remember?
Oh, yes.
Yes. Like
I
that.
don't do this often.
So, actually, do you need to turn around and be the other way?
Be like, do the other side?
Yeah.
Would be nice.
Yeah. Why don't you do that?
Overstretched.
Yeah. So I'm trying to keep her body balanced by changing sides here. No, don't step through here. Just do it like we did. That's,
It needs to be turned this way.
like this. That's right. There we go. Okay. So here she's got the advantage of sit all the way back. This way toward the wall, so the whole thigh is supported. There we go. So she's got the advantage of being able to sit. Then she can use her hand to gently take that back And now she's absolutely perpendicular in the spine. And now from here, she will come into the rest of the pose. So come, do you need this? And she can do the pose, but she's totally supported. So there's not as much of a struggle here, and she can stay in the pose longer and enjoy the pose in that way. Okay, now come up. Good. So the next pose is a pose of forward extension, and it's extension of the back body. So show Parshvattanasana. Start with both heels at the wall. And step right foot forward. So I'm going to show the pose, the classical pose. You can use either bricks or hands to the floor.
Bricks.
Yes, she needs bricks. And she has to work now to balance the spine and the hips by leveling the pelvis in this way. But you can see this calls for a lot of flexibility in the hamstrings, and we want to keep this area, the shoulder blades, moving in and not up. So if you're stiff, this is what we see a lot of. Oh, an overstretch of the back and an understretch of the legs. So she rolls the upper arms out and this comes in. Well, that's fine for a seasoned student. So come up, turn the feet to parallel, bring them together. But with the chair, and there is an element of balance to that pose. You may not recognize it, but if you do it, you'll know that people feel a little unstable. But with their trusty chair, it's a different thing. So kind of just, you don't have to be at the wall. Yeah. So she starts here. Now to get the shoulder blades to move in, she rolls the upper arms out and looks forward from the sternum. Now the spine is moving into the back body instead of up toward the ceiling. But she can come a little bit lower, so do it slowly. So she walks her hands down the chair leg, and she can stop at any place she needs to. So she's not working beyond her capability in the pose. So the chair gives her great stability. She doesn't have to worry about falling. She's got her two hands really stable and the back foot. Now you can release your head and neck. Yeah, and just relax. And now climb up, back up the chair, turn the feet to parallel, and bring the feet together. Okay, so those are some standing poses that are very much helped with chair. If we have time, well, we'll show one more pose, and that's a seated pose, so you'll need your blankets. So this is a gentle twist, and she's probably going to need 2 blankets. How many do you need for Vajrasana to take the feet to the side?
Maybe just 2.
2.
Actually,
okay.
Maybe not even, but just 1.
Okay. So if you can imagine the knee problems that some people have, or the tight ankles, and you are asking them to sit, let me just show quickly, to sit in this position for this final pose. Some people will just look at you like, you're crazy, there's no way I can sit like this. So what we do, and the twist, so kind of you continue it and show the pose. Take your legs to the left and twist to the right. So she wants as much weight on this side as on this side to balance the pelvis. So I'm going to ask her to have a little more height. There we go. Now take the arms up, right hand behind you, left hand to your knee. Inhale, lift and lengthen. Exhale and turn to the right. Nice pose for the spine, a little twisting. So we've shown forward bending, we've shown a little back bend with upward dog. Now this is a little bit of a twist. And downward dog is the first upside down pose, the first inversion we show. Okay, and come out. Now, if you have a chair, for those people whose knees won't let them do that pose or whose ankles won't let them, then sit with your leg, sit this way. No, I'm wrong, the other way. That was my fault. Okay, so now we've taken the legs out of the equation, so the knees and the ankles are fine. So then she takes the hands to the back of the chair. On the inhalation, lengthen, and on the exhale, she pushes with this left hand to bring the right side of the chest forward, and she pulls with the right. And she's got the pose, and the knees are happy. Okay, now from here, if we have a little bit more time, let me show one other thing. You can show it. Sit now facing forward in the chair. So I'll go ahead and just show the possibilities of this pose. This is a pose, Paschimottanasana, which is a stretch of the back body. So I come forward, I pull back to keep my shoulder blades pinned onto the back, and then I can release forward. So what we don't want to see is coming forward from the back body, but sometimes we use straps or whatever so we can come forward from the front body. But it's still a difficult pose for stiff people. But in the chair, separate your knees and feet. Press down, lift up. Now be right in the middle of the chair seat.
I thought it was.
No, I mean from front to back. A little more forward. Now from here. And then she comes forward, keeping that nice length in the back, and now release your arms forward between your legs. And now the spine gets a nice, particularly the sacrum gets a nice spreading action as well as vertical extension. She has a horizontal expansion here and vertical extension. So it's a lovely way to end a practice. And then come up and stand up. Let's just show quick Shavasana. So let's say I've had a really strong practice and my lower back is really tired. And I want to lie down and rest in the final resting pose, which is just on the back with the legs straight. But my back is not happy that way. So I lie down and put your lower legs in the chair. So you can do your resting pose after your practice so that the sacrum is totally supported on the floor. So this way, with the legs elevated and bent, the sacrum is able to spread and have that same support that it needs. Okay. Now you can turn to your side and come up. Thank you.
Wow, Jan, that was wonderful.
I hope that was helpful, Becky.
That was really helpful to see all the different ways that yoga is accessible to people. I was just saying that I've done yoga off and on for years, and of course I do triathlons, but swim, bike, run, but I am stiff. And all the different times you said, well, if you're stiff, and I'm going, yes, and if you're stiff. And it's interesting using a chair, how you can still do poses that help you. It was just a wonderful thing. And it seems that the people that you are teaching now, I don't know how many other people are teaching that way. As the population ages, they can't do all the fancy stuff.
Well, it's amazing how many people I'm still teaching that have been with me for almost 40 years. And so you can imagine the changes that I've seen, not only in my own body, but in theirs, even though we do our best to stay healthy, we can't control everything. You know, we can't. There's genetics, there's gravity, there's there are all kinds of things that are working against us as well as for us. So we sort of have to be accepting of some things, but do the best we can with what we've been given, and gratitude, gratitude, gratitude.
Gratitude that we
So
can do anything
important.
close to that.
So important just to express the gratitude for what we've been given. I totally believe in that. I think it changes our whole perception of life if we can start out the day with some expression of gratitude.
That's a very good idea. Just when you wake up,
Right.
I'm alive. Hey,
Right.
I'm grateful.
Right.
I'm alive. And I get to, like for you, do what you love to do.
That's
And
right.
for me, do what I love
What
to
a
do.
gift.
Yes.
What a gift.
The gift of life, and the fact that you can teach what you demonstrated so people can still have continue to have a better quality of life as they get older.
Absolutely.
You know, the older thing, you're going to get older unless you die. So,
Right.
you know, what can you do to keep this body in as good a shape as possible?
Exactly. And I think our culture has too long not been very kind to elderly people, so that we begin to feel somewhat invisible at some point, and that's just not a good thing.
Right.
So hopefully we can begin to work with that and
Yes.
change it somewhat.
Wonderful. Well, Jan Campbell, very good. Namaste, by the way.
Namaste.
And thank you very much.
Thank you, Becky.